The Corkin Entertainment Show is brought to you by Podmatch, the ultimate platform designed to connect podcast hosts with prospective guests effortlessly. Are you a podcaster looking to elevate your show to new heights? Or perhaps you're a guest hoping to share your story with a broader audience. Whatever your podcasting goals are, we have the perfect solution for you. Podmatch simplifies the entire process of discovering guests for your show or finding podcasts to feature your expertise. Now imagine a platform where you can easily match with like-minded creators tailored specifically to your niche. With Podmatch, you can effortlessly network with influencers and thought leaders, all while staying true to your podcast vision. There are a multitude of ways that Podmatch can help you grow your brand. You can be part of a thriving community of podcasters and potential guests. Engage, collaborate, and grow together. If you're ready to experience these fantastic benefits for yourself, we invite you to join Podmatch today. Head over to www.joinpodmatch.com/Corkin Entertainment and sign up right now for only $6 a month. That's right, you heard me right, $6 a month. Join the Podmatch family today and watch your podcast soar to new altitudes. Thank you for tuning into the Corkin Entertainment Show, and happy podcasting. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corkin Entertainment Show. I am your host, Frankie Corcoran. Hope everybody's having a good month. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. You had lots of turkey and spent lots of time with family and all that good stuff. So just before I start today, the only thing I'm really going to say is we're at the time of year. I think I said it last week too, but we're at the time of year. People are getting sick. People are coughing a lot. I'm just getting over a cold. So if I sound a little somewhat nasally in this episode, that's why. But just a reminder that self-care is the most important thing of all. And especially around this time of year where we're at, it's colder weather and illnesses spread very quickly. So just keep that in mind. Hope everybody stays safe and all that good jazz. So moving on with our show today. Not really much to ramble about today this week. Very excited about our guest today. Shelley Blanton-Stroud. She is a recently retired writing teacher, a recently retired writing teacher. That's a tongue twister. She taught for 3 decades in the California State University system, and she is the author of the historical mystery series, Copy Boy, Tomboy, Poster Girl, which follows Jane Benjamin, the Jane Benjamin Chronicles, I guess you could call it. Her latest book, An Unlikely Prospect, is out now, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get your books. We talk about a lot of different things. It's her niche is historical fiction. So we talk a little bit about what goes into writing history and some of the pressures behind it, and a lot of great stuff in this episode. So hope you guys enjoy it. And you can also go to Shelley's site. I'm going to put that link in the episode description, ShelleyBlanton-Stroud.com. So be sure to go check out some of the amazing things that she does and her events, speaking events, and all that stuff. So later in the show, I want to give my thoughts on Fast and Furious 11. May not happen. We'll talk about that. There's been some developments on that end. And also, I want to wrap the show up today with something that I did not plan on talking about, but because it involves someone who is probably my favorite comedian, I think I'll talk about it and just my thoughts on it. That's, of course, the whole Bill Burr, Saudi Arabia situation that's been going on. He's been receiving some backlash. We'll talk a little bit about that later on the show. But anyways, guys, if you enjoy the episode, leave us a nice review, rating, all that stuff. It helps grow the show and lets me know that you guys are interested. That's the main thing. As long as I know that you guys are interested. Even if you guys aren't interested, I'll just keep doing it. But anyways, without further ado, guys, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast today. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I am your host, Frankie Corcoran, and today I am joined by retired writing teacher, novelist, who is behind the historical mystery series, Copy Boy, Tomboy, Poster Girl. You can get her latest novel, An Unlikely Prospect, available now wherever you get your books, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all that stuff. Very excited to have her on here, Shelley Blanton-Stroud. Shelley, how are you today?
Great, Frankie. Really glad to be here.
Yes, well, it's my pleasure, and I'm always, one of the things that you do through your work is you are able to blend, history and storytelling together. Like you're kind of able to combine them both, and doing that stuff is always so for me anyway. I've done a play before where we were honoring the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and I didn't really know a lot about it. I got some people on to help, but when you're writing stuff about history, it gets so I'm like, oh my god, I want to make sure that I do it justice. Can you walk me a little bit through the process of what it's like to write a play or sorry, a book regarding something historical? You want to make sure it's all accurate. Just feel free to
Sure.
walk us through your process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you hit on like the core of the trouble, I think, to be a historical novelist is that you want to honor real events and to present them as authentically as possible, also without losing the reader. Reading is a pleasurable activity, it is an entertainment. So it's a balance between including details that you get from history within a framework that's really about storytelling and character developing. So that's always the thing, that's the biggest rub. And so let me give you an example with my most recent book, An Unlikely Prospect, which you have mentioned. So it's set in 1945 on VJ Day when Japan surrendered in World War II, and there were celebrations around the world on streets everywhere. Well, San Francisco, California, is the only city where those celebrations turned into a 3-day riot. 1,000 people were hospitalized, 13 were killed, and at least 6 women were raped. And the whole story got really tamped down because they didn't want that to be the narrative of their city at this moment. So it was hard to find all the historical details I needed to be able to flesh out what happened in those riots. And so I was able to find about 10 years ago on the 70th anniversary of VJ Day, there were a series of articles by the San Francisco Chronicle that kind of pulled those details up again. And I was able to use evidence from the newspaper then to flesh out what had happened in the middle of my novel. But I really need a main character with an arc that fits with historical events, but also fits with my storytelling goals. And so it has been my habit, my way of working in this historical novel space is to choose actual historical events in actual historical settings, but to find what I think of as a cave, which is a place within that historical record where there's an absence of information, where there's an opening, and search and search and search and try to find if there are any answers to my questions about that opening. In this case, why was the story tamped down? And then that's where I do my invention. That's where I do my fictionalizing. So my protagonist, Sandy Zimmer, is a fictional character at a fictional newspaper inspired by the San Francisco Chronicle. And she gives me the opportunity to ask things like, why did this happen? And what if it had happened differently? So there's a back and forth. And you're implying in your question too that it's fraught to write, as you know from the play you wrote, it's fraught to write something historical because not only do you just want to get it right, but there are readers or viewers who love history who will catch out any error.
Yeah.
I will say the smallest things, like I did have a great interview with a journalist I really love, and she's a journalist for the San Francisco Chronicle. And so in our interview, she said, well, you have her choosing to cross Market Street during the riot on Ninth Street. I think she would have chosen 6th. It's much narrower. And I'm like, oh, I feel sick in my stomach. I got the street wrong. And I was tossing and turning like, what was the reason I chose ninth and not sixth? And I wanted to call her back and explain my thinking. But it's always possible to be revealed as having made a mistake by readers who are, historically attuned. So one of the things that takes care of that, at least for me, is to take copious notes and then provide an author's note at the end saying, these are the people who really did exist in this event and these are the things they did. These are the people who are invented for this novel in order and inspired by these other historical characters. So I feel like if you're honest with your reader, then it's all right. It's going to be all right.
It is kind of interesting about it, it's some like we can very easily go, oh, it's fine, the audience will never pick that up, the audience will never notice this, and then they catch on it, and I'm like, okay, there's a part of me that I'm like, I think that makes me feel good in a way because it shows that they're really paying attention to your story, so I think that's one thing, to take the good out of the bad. Do you find yourself sometimes underestimating the reader sometimes
Oh,
in most of the projects that you do, thinking like, that's fine, they won't pick it up, I'm sure if I do this they won't notice or anything like that, but nowadays, how are you with trying to make sure that the audience is smart, they will
yeah.
pick up on certain things, so how do you manage that?
Well, also, the audience now has a computer in their pocket, which they can refer to any moment they like and say, in what year was root beer invented? And then they could send you a note about your character drinking root beer at this moment. But I, it's funny because I've never, ever had that happen. Uh, there have been small instances like the one I just told you. Another time was in an earlier book. I sent it as an ARC, an advanced reader copy, to a friend who lives in San Francisco. And I said, please read this and just let me know if there's anything that's wrong for you. And he responded, he's like, oh my God, I love it so much. This is fantastic. And by the way, you totally messed up the bus line. She would never have been taking the California one. She would have been taking the 15 or whatever it was. And so, things like that happen, but I try to send it out as an advanced reader copy to people who have special eyes, like someone who lives and has lived forever in San Francisco and knows those streets and restaurants. But also, when there are particular medical issues with it, I'll submit it to a doctor and say, please let me know when I talk about polio here, am I getting something wrong? Or concussion, am I getting something wrong? I also go to conferences and try to meet people who are specialists in different things, police officers, so I can follow up with questions about it. So that's kind of as I age as a writer, I find myself more and more concerned about not messing up the historical parts. I don't think my audience has ever been too critical at all about historical accuracy. They might ask questions about why did you get inspired by, an example might be I have a character in my novels who's inspired by Henry J. Kaiser. Of Kaiser Permanente, and he was an industrialist who built all the Liberty ships in World War II, all this kind of stuff. Well, my character is based on him, and it is not him. He has a different name, and I've changed key elements of his background, but his kind of history is the same, doing the same work, having the same accomplishments. So people would say, why don't you just let it be Henry J. Kaiser? That's really interesting. And I'll say, because I needed him to do some dastardly things, and I'm not going to act like Henry J. Kaiser did those things that I need someone in a mystery novel to do. So it's always a delicate balancing act.
Yes, yes. So like, never underestimate the viewer, which
Yeah.
is, as you said, or as I said earlier, it's you take that with the highest compliment because it goes to show how into the book they are, that they're picking up these small little things. I'm like, okay, that's a good thing. And that's why people have editors. That's what editors are for too, to pick out those small things. But I hear of some people, they say, who don't go through editors. Is that a smart thing to do when you're writing a book? There's some people who say, I don't need an editor, and most of the time that doesn't go over very well. Have you ever met somebody who has been like that? Have you ever been in a situation like that where maybe, editor, nah, this one's fine. It's fine to me.
Well, I feel that the most of the writers that I talk to don't feel that way. And I understand there are plenty of people, especially when people are self-publishing. One of the many reasons they choose to do that is economic. It's difficult to afford to pay for outside services. If you go through a publishing company, there's going to be editorial. But if you're doing it yourself, you have all those choices all the time, rightly. And there are people who say, I'm a really great writer. I edit for other people. I don't need those services and I don't have to pay that money. And I totally understand that. But I do know too that I taught writing at college on college campuses for 34 years. And I'm also a writing coach for the independent system operators in the United States. So I'm constantly editing, constantly teaching writing practices as well as writing my own novels. And I'll tell you what, the editorial process, when my editors, I'm thinking of copy editors, always find things that I did not see. Even though I go through it like I obviously I read it on my laptop and then I print it out and read it as paper. Then I change the font and look at it again because things pop out to you in a different fonts. I've even printed it out on colored paper to see what pops out. Sometimes I read it on my Kindle to do different things. So I go through all those steps. I read aloud. I'll read it aloud quite a bit. Still, things will pop up. Then I pass it off to the copy editor. How does she find these things? I've been through it so many times, even with a really pretty full editorial background. So I guess my thought is that for anyone who's considering a career in writing, and if the question arises, should I proceed with the idea of trying to pursue an editor? I would say absolutely yes. And maybe you can't afford an expensive editor, but you might be able to hire someone less expensively and at least to get a separate pair of eyes on it. One time I will remember that my daughter-in-law, I gave her an advanced reader copy and she found one sentence in the final chapter that was missing a period. I had been through it so many times. My copy editor had been through it. Proofreaders had been through it. We all missed it, but my daughter-in-law found it at the very last minute. So sometimes just a fresh eye, even if it's not a really well-paid fresh eye, can make a very big difference.
Yet you said it best. You always pick out things that even. Do you ever have a book that you put out that you read later and go, I didn't notice that?
Oh, you know what? I have actually, no, I've been able to catch it because I get the advanced reader copies. Then I go through it and read it as a book, and then I see things differently in book form than I did on just a printout or a Kindle. And I've always been able to catch those things in the advanced reader stage. So it doesn't go to, the final with any errors that I have seen. I don't know if anybody else has seen them, but I will tell you one time with, oh, maybe my first book, I sent an advanced reader copy out to reviewers, and a reviewer at Kirkus noted that in one scene, I described the car as a Cadillac, and in another as a Chevrolet, a car that appears twice in the novel, and I'm not a car person and I see that letter C and I'm good, and nobody else had caught it. So that one, even though it wasn't out in final form, it was out to an official place in the advanced reader copy. And I was very embarrassed, but my editor or my publisher was able to reach out and say that is already fixed in the final form, just so you know, and they removed it from the review. So that was great. But I think if you get real thorough, it's possible for you not to be humiliated by errors. That doesn't mean I'm not humiliated by other things. You know, I read things. I mean, my idea of torture would be to get out my senior thesis when I was 21 years old and read it. I'd be so humiliated at my use of words that are 5 miles long and my sentences that are 20 miles long, that kind of thing. So anytime you read something that you wrote in the past, I think the person you are now, the writer you are now, is different than the writer you were then. And so um, you tend to regret certain decisions you made because you wouldn't make those decisions now.
Yeah, and I always say it's actually kind of a good thing to be humiliated at some point in your life. I always say it's never a bad thing because anybody who will go to you and say, "Oh, geez, yeah, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing," and you're like, "Okay, well, you've been embarrassed before, maybe by doing a similar thing." And so it's one of those things, especially when it's this is what you do, like you're a writer, and if you see something that somebody offers you a even like a small like little piece of feedback, you're almost like, oh my god, I'm so embarrassed, how did I miss that? There's
Yeah.
almost that part of you, all artists are like this, everybody's like this, is they're always hard on themselves. They any tiny little thing, they're always picking at it and they're sticking with it, like, oh my god, I missed a comma at this in the sentence, I missed a period here, oh my god, this is terrible. uh do you sometimes get like that where you get hard on yourself over the smallest things, like you said, like being embarrassed at sometimes, but do you ever get like really hard on yourself over something that people be like, no, it's fine, like I didn't, that was no big deal to me, but for you it's like, crap, this was so perfect in my eyes, and then I realized I forgot to do this or add this, and now it just ruined, and people are like, what are you talking about, it's fine.
Well, I would say my trajectory as a writer is a little different than other people's because even though I taught writing just kind of forever, I didn't really start writing until I was 50. And so at first, there was a great deal of insecurity, like the feeling of being an imposter. I'm an imposter pretending to be a writer, is what I thought. So any little criticism could send me into the gutter a little bit, thinking, oh, what am I, why am I putting myself in this position? Why take the risk of putting my work out there? Um, and one of the things I'm proudest of, like for me, because I've had this full life of work, a variety of different jobs, but all kinds of jobs over my entire career. And I choose to be a writer now. I choose to write these novels, and this is how I plan to spend the rest of my life. One of the things I love about it most, and I'm really quite proud of, is how much thicker my skin is. Like in the beginning, I was thin-skinned. It was easy to put me off my game, make me feel insecure. I don't belong. I don't have a right to be doing this, to send this information in. And I don't feel that way anymore. I feel that I can take risks, and if it doesn't work, oh well, keep moving. And I can take critique. And if there is, I pride myself actually on this ability to receive critique, evaluate it, and say, this I agree with. This, no, I'm not, I'm going to keep it the way it is, and go back and forth, making a judgment about what are my intentions with my writing. And so I'll take suggestions if they align with what I want my work to do. And I'll just respectfully say no, thank you to changes that don't align with what I want my work to do. And I'm able to sleep a lot better now. So, but that was, this is after 4 books. I find myself in the situation of feeling like I do have a right to be here. I've earned my right to be here. And I don't have to suffer every critique as if it's a shot to the heart.
And that's good that you also need, as a writer, you also need the ability to go, okay, I appreciate this and I appreciate what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But if you're the type of person that just says yes to everything,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard to, because at the end of the day, it's your vision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Definitely take advice when it comes your way, but
Yeah.
you don't want it to steer away from what you're trying to do, so that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with at the beginning, is that they're just starting out. They're just going to say yes to everything people say. Change this, change that. You know what? Change the title while we're at it. Change the story, like change everything about it. And
Yeah.
you're just going yes, 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 and then eventually you're like, this is not at all what I envisioned, so I like that you're able to put your foot down in those certain times and say, and it's not about, some people will mistake it as you just don't want to take people's advice. You just want to do your thing. It's like, well, no, I'm open to advice. It's
Yeah.
just I have my own vision too that I need to fulfill. I'll take your notes into consideration, of course.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that being a writer, having to have a thick skin, like really, that's the truth behind it, is that if you want to be a writer, you need to have a thick skin. Like you really need to be able to take that stuff. And I mean, even your job as a teacher. I mean, like what was it like? Anytime maybe a student questioned you or something like that.
Yeah.
How were you able to handle that?
Yeah, and in fact, I believe though I came late to writing fiction, I had so many decades of advising other people on their academic writing and, later in their business writing. And I learned a lot about that, about what kind of writer I want to be. I want to be the kind of person who enters a meeting to talk about my work with my eyes kind of bright and wide open, like I'm listening to you. I'm super curious about the advice you have to share, and let's have a conversation back and forth. With my own students, when I taught at Sacramento State for quite a long time, um, one of the things I did that I really loved, in my department was kind enough to let me do this, is that when my students all had essays due, the first draft of their essays, I would cancel classes for 2 weeks, and I would block my entire days from 7 till 7 for 2 weeks straight, where I would be on campus and I would meet a student individually for 30 minutes. And so the first thing we would do is we would walk and talk. We would walk around the buildings, and they would tell me what their intentions are with their essay and what they're worried about and what they're proud about. Then we go back to my office, and um, I would read through the essay with them, and then we'd talk about what's working and what's not working. And then almost always, because of that, the students would be like, "You're so right. I just didn't know what it was before." So spending a little time treating, writers really respectfully when you talk to them about their writing, and and inviting their intentions in. And so I would hope that if I were an editor at a publishing house, that that's how I would approach it. Tell me what your intentions are here, because I notice there's something strange going on and I don't know why it's happening. Yeah.
Yes, and with hiring an editor, and like we said earlier, is that you will find things later on that you can't believe. How did I miss that? How did I not know? I said the word "the" 5 times in this one sentence. How did I not see that before? You know what I mean? I'm sure there's people who do that and they're like, that doesn't sound right. Like the. Like, what is the sentence that you're trying to say? So yeah, that's why it's always so important. And then also, if you're going to pursue writing, I know hiring an editor, of course, you might hear that and just go, oh, that's just more money and this and that. But it's your passion. It's what you're going for. Like when you were kind of starting out, what um, now going for writing from a business perspective, did that change your perspective on how you wrote? Did it change your perspective on your love for writing? Like, how did it kind of shape you?
Um, well, it's always been through my teaching of college writing and in the independent system operator world. it actually played a role in my fiction writing that I developed over the decades, a real preference for sentences that are clear and powerful and kind of purposeful and not over adjectived or things like that. And so the things that I preferred in business writing gave me a starting point for what I actually do prefer in fiction, in my own fiction writing. And that doesn't mean every sentence is short. It doesn't mean that at all. But I don't like to have flabby content. I don't like it to feel that I don't want someone to think, oh man, she should have hired an editor. You know what I mean? It's self-indulgent. I want them to feel that every sentence is necessary. So I don't want to waste my reader's time or their mind space with things that don't reveal something. So I think it's interesting to me how those writing for academics and for business and for fiction, there is this interweaving of goals, including, I mean, the fiction comes back to when I talk to business writers too, and I tell them about people understand a story better than they do a list of facts. So if you can incorporate some storytelling skills, some narrative skills, then you are going to be able to reveal this evidence and these facts a lot more, uh, powerfully and purposefully.
This episode of the Corcoran Entertainment Show is brought to you by Holy Hydrogen. Okay, guys, let's be real. We all try our best to stay hydrated, right? But not all water is created equal. That's where Holy Hydrogen comes in. They've got this awesome device called the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium Edition, and it takes clean water to the next level by infusing it with molecular energy. That means you're not just drinking water, you're giving your body extra support with every sip, better energy, less inflammation, and a real boost to your immune system. So try the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium Edition today by going to shop.holyhydrogen.com/Corcoran and use the promo code Corcoran for $100 off your purchase. Again, that's shop.holyhydrogen.com/Corcoran and use the promo code Corcoran at checkout. Stay hydrated and stay healthy.
And yet, write it in a way that gets them involved too, like gets them. So it's like, okay, writing this story, it has a historical setting, but it also tells a story that we don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's something that we can follow instead of. It's kind of similar to a lot of the biopics and everything, where you watch the biopics and you're like, I know exactly where this is going. But you can do those and it's all in the writing. Even if you know where the story's going, it's all in the writing as long as the writing is engaging enough and it's well written. There'll be even times where you're like, "Oh my God, I hope he's okay." And I'm like, "Oh wait, that's right. He's a real person. He died years ago, you know?" So like yeah, like it really just it's a talent to be able to do that. And how many prequels of shows and stuff like that there are where you're hoping and praying that your favorite characters are going to make it out and you're like, oh crap, that's right, but they're not in the sequel series, so how is this gonna work, and is this just gonna make me depressed? Like what's this gonna, what's gonna happen? Like you're constantly you know thinking all these different possible outcomes. But as I said, it's just a testament to how good the writer is at building tension and creating tension like that. So what can you tell us about your latest book on Unlikely Prospect? It's available everywhere you get your books, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
What can you tell us about that? Almost like a little plug for it.
Sure. Well, I mentioned before, it's set, it starts on VJ Day in 1945 in San Francisco on the day of the Victory Japan Day, but it turned into what was locally called the Peace Riots with all of this death and damage and, physical abuse. The city was kind of torn apart. The downtown businesses, buildings were looted, things like that. And it was squashed in the media. Well, so that's kind of the historical time that it's set in, but the arc follows a woman named Sandy Zimmer, who she's a young woman. She's 33, and she's inherited the newspaper, the San Francisco Prospect, when her husband died of a heart attack. So she's in a weird position of being in charge of a very important institution at a very important moment in history. And yet she's young and fairly untrained, and also at a time when women were not expected to hold such jobs. There were only three women in the United States who were publishers of a major newspaper at that time. And so it was interesting to me to trace in this story what would happen as this woman starts kind of climbing this hill of events and has to change in order to solve the problem of how to confront this story when everyone else is tamping it down. And so she's the invented character, and I just love her because I think a lot of us, particularly in times we're living through now, like to think about a normal person who's not by nature heroic, who winds up step by step becoming, in a way, more heroic by rising to the occasion and against what others are telling her to do, tells the truth about what's happening, putting herself and her newspaper at risk. So it was a great, even though this was written before our current day, it's very pleasing for me to return to it in interviews and conversations and book clubs on this book, because the great joy of reading historical fiction, I think, is when you not only learn about something that happened in the past you were unaware of, but also when you learn that it's not just historical, it's universal. People are the same now as they were before, and we can learn from the great gifts the people in the past gave us, as well as their terrible mistakes. And it always, to me, if you choose the right book, it always feels very current and relevant.
Yes, like you're reading a book about the medieval times. You're in the medieval times, you
That's
know. And if you're reading a murder mystery book, you're in the mystery. Hardy Boys or Agatha Christie, Miss Marple, those types of things. So yeah, it just really gets you immersed in the experience, and it always is just a testament to the writers for making people feel like that they're in that world, and then forces them to come back to reality and go, oh crap, okay, it's not it's not real. I mean, parts of it are, but I mean, overall, I'm not in that world. Shelley, yeah, this has been great. It really, really has. Like, it's so great to hear amazing insight into what goes into writing, and all these years, 3 decades, correct, of a teaching, right?
That's right.
Yeah, amazing. And it's great to see that you've still kept up with it.
Yeah.
And it's clear that it's a great passion for you, that just because you're not teaching anymore, you're still helping people. You're still teaching people through your stories and through your writing. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. And where could people find you online, websites or social media and things like that?
It's easy. It's my name. It's a Shelley Blanton-Stroud with no hyphen in the website, shelleyblanton-stroud.com.
Perfect. And guys, we will put that in our episode description. So click the link, check out to see all the amazing stuff Shelley does and continues to do. Thank you again, Shelley, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Frankie. It was delightful.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So, guys, we're going to take a short break. We will be right back. But until then, this is Frankie and Shelley signing off. Cheers, Shell. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. That was me and Shelley Blanton-Stroud. Thank you very much, Shelley, for coming on. And guys, be sure to click the link in the episode description to go to Shelley's site and learn a little bit about what she does, purchase the book, and all that good stuff. So, An Unlikely Prospect, her latest one, and of course, her other ones as well. So, thank you again, Shelley, for coming on. It was a great conversation, and thank you for taking the time. Moving on to our solo segments today. First one that I want to touch on is about a little franchise that it's one of those ones that you hear it and you go, that's still going? Yep, that's still going.
Fast and Furious 11. So of course, I'll kind of just recap a little bit about, on my end here. I really think that the first 7 Fast and Furious movies are awesome. They're really awesome, especially, the early ones, back when it was more street racing focused. And then as we got into number 4, 5, 6, 7, it kind of got a little more action focused, which I didn't mind at all. I know some people say it kind of hurt the franchise, but no, I think it worked. I don't really go into, at least me personally, I don't go into Fast and Furious with the mindset of I'm going to get a real groundbreaking story that's going to make me, change my perspective on life and think about things a different way. Fast and Furious was never like that. It's just one of those franchises that you go in just for the ridiculous nature of it, the high-speed car chases and all that stuff. So I really enjoyed it up to number 7. I'll be honest, I didn't like number 8 at all. I don't really know. I can't really place my finger on exactly why. And it kind of just started to get, of course, and then they're in space, and then it's just, so, it's, for me anyway, I've been kind of slowly losing my interest in it as it's went on, and especially at the time they were talking about, excuse me, guys. They were talking about just keeping the franchise going, like just never ending it. They're just going to keep on going. And for me, I'm like, okay, I mean, if that's what you want, sure, but how much more can you do? So anyways, we got the last one that came out in 2023, and that was of course Fast X Fast and Furious 10. It ended on a huge cliffhanger, which was of course Jason Momoa's character basically blowing up or trying to blow up Dom. And and then it was a massive cliffhanger, and now of course we know that we are getting a 11th and final one. They've confirmed that Fast 11 is going to be the final one. I don't know if they've called it. Is it Fast X Part 2? Is that what they're calling it? That's what I'm hearing it's called, and then some saying it's just Fast 11, but I'm just going to call it Fast 11 for now. But anyways, we of course, as I said, it's on its way. It's scheduled for April 2027. But here's the funny part. Apparently, it was supposed to come out last year. So really, it's funny to think that had it not been for these delays, it would have been out on streaming right now. So it's kind of interesting, but now we're getting word that we may not even see it. So this is an article from Screen Rant, who writes, Fast and Furious 11 status. Will Universal make it? And what Vin Diesel has said. So Fast X Part 2. So I guess that's what they're calling it. But for me, I'll just say Fast 11. Excuse me, guys. Yeah, see, I'm getting over that cold that I was talking about. Fast X Part 2 has made a little progress since its predecessor was released in 2023, and a recent report raises concerns that the franchise's grand finale may not happen at all. The Fast franchise was popular right when it first began in 2011, but 2011's Fast 5 turned it into a box office juggernaut. And yes, and that's true because, really, I mean, the Fast and Furious franchise, it was already popular. Fast 5 came and they added Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it. And of course, it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's like the biggest star in the world. So obviously, it was just going to send it to another level of fame and popularity. So as the first half to the 2-part finale, Fast X ends on a massive cliffhanger where Dom and his son try to survive a massive explosion caused by Momoa's Dante. However, audiences may never find out what happens to Dom, as Fast 11 still has no release date, and there may not be one soon if Universal and Diesel can't make some compromises. So essentially, this is what's going on. So Fast X wasn't a box office bomb, but it was a disappointment for Universal. It made $704 million worldwide, which is impressive for any movie. However, the film had a reported budget of $340 million, meaning that it needed $850 million to break even. That's a big one. Sorry. That's a big one. Because, like, look, some might see that and think it's not a big deal. But, like, look, a lot of that budget the budget that it took to make the film, 340 million. That's not including marketing. The marketing's a whole other game, trailers and press and all that stuff. So yeah, like it was a box office bomb. Technically, I mean, like it's still, as I said, it's impressive for any movie. Like really, any film studio who got to $704 million is like, holy shit, that is amazing. But for Fast and Furious, especially, I mean, not just for Fast and Furious, but when your movie, it cost nearly $400 million to make, not very good, you know? I mean, so in a new report from the Wall Street Journal, it's been revealed that Fast 11's budget is a significant concern for the studio. The initial script reportedly would require a budget of $250 million, but Universal isn't willing to make the film for more than $200 million. Part of that budget goes towards the film's massive cast and the expenses of shooting in international locations. So that's basically where it's at. And now, of course, it goes to what Vin Diesel has said, who, let's be honest, Vin Diesel, he is the type of guy, I mean, we've seen this, of course, we've had the whole fiasco, the whole feud between him and The Rock. And, so it's become clear that Vin Diesel is an actor who's really hard to work for. I like Vin Diesel. I really do like Vin Diesel. But as a person, someone to work with, not so much, from what I can tell. I've never worked with him and I never will work with him. So it's Vin Diesel's really the one, like, he's really pushing for, for the big budget and, in his producer hat, like basically I'm Vin Diesel, do what I say. I'm a producer, I'm the star. So in an Instagram post, Vin Diesel shared to celebrate Father's Day in 2024, the XXX actor shared the concept art for Fast 11, called it an American road trip. A road trip storyline could work as Dom and his son travel across the U.S. trying to find the rest of his family. It would also allow Universal to shoot the film in mostly domestic locations. So here's the problem. If Fast X made $1 billion, let's say, if it made $1 billion, if it made $900 million, and the studio still wasn't willing to, meet them halfway, I could be on Vin Diesel's side for this. You know what I mean? Like, I could understand where he's coming from and just be like, okay, this is our last movie. The last one was a huge success. We want to finish strong here. You got to meet us halfway here. Like, come on, like, So, but in this case here, it lost the studio money. It lost the studio millions of dollars. Fast X did. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to take another big risk and lose more money? No, you can't. Like, you just can't do that. Like, it's one of those things of, look, as I said, if Fast X made $1 billion, the studio would have been crazy not to give them the bigger budget because this would have warranted it. But in this case, I got to side with the studio on this one. I mean, financially, it would be financially irresponsible if they were to go for $250 million. Like, they're like, Vin, we'll meet you halfway. We'll go $200 million, but $250, we can't. It's just, we can't. There's a lot of things that go into making films that people don't seem to see. I mean, like, obviously budgeting and everything. It's a whole, like, so, like, yeah, it's a tricky situation, especially because Fast X left on a cliffhanger and we have to see how is this going to end now. It's tough, but I mean, from a business point of view, you really gotta look at it from that perspective and go, doing Fast X with that budget cost us lots of money. We'll meet you halfway. We'll go $200 million. If it, maybe it would be a huge success because it's the last one. Maybe that one would hit $1 billion. Like, who knows? But if I had to guess, I'd say probably not. But we'll see. I could be wrong. But so yeah, in this case, I am on the side of the studio. I know lots of people might be thinking that they don't understand. Like I've seen some people on like Reddit threads and stuff saying like, "Oh, come on, like give them the money. It's their last film." No, financially, they got to look at it from a business perspective. At the end of the day, it is a business, and they need to do what's best for their business. Vin is just not willing to compromise. So, what do I think? Are we going to see Fast 11? I'm going to say I'm leaning more towards the yes. I think we will still get it. Here it is. I'll go 60-40. 60%, I think it'll happen. 40%, I think it won't happen. I'm given the slight advantage to, like, come on, it's the last film. They got to compromise somehow. But then if they come out and say Fast 11 is canceled or Fast X Part 2 is canceled, I wouldn't necessarily be shocked by it either. You know, just based on what we're hearing and all that stuff. It's unfortunate that it's gotten to this point, but what can you do? That's business, man. That's business. And you know, people can say what they want. Vin can say what he wants. But at the end of the day, it's their money they're putting into it. And they need to be able to say, you know, if we're giving you money, we're funding you. We need to have some sort of say into what goes into it. It'd be the equivalent of if you hire a contractor to redo your entire house, and the contractor basically says, just give me your money and I'll do whatever the hell I want to do to your house. You would never let someone do that because it's your money that you're paying them. You're paying them to redo your house the way that you want it, not the way they want it. So you kind of got to look at it from that perspective too. So as I said, 60-40, 60%, I think we're still going to get it just because especially that massive cliffhanger. We got to see what happens. It's such a big franchise and everybody wants to see it. I mean, most people want to see it. But then there's that other side too where I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they can't compromise. If Vin Diesel just says, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm done, you know? But anyways, be sure to let me know what you think. Are we going to see Fast and Furious 11? Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments and on social media and all that stuff. And so moving on to our last solo discussion topic today is something that, I'll be honest, I did not want to talk about. But, you know, the more I thought about it, I said, I'm going to give my thoughts, what I think of this whole situation, because in a way, it kind of affects me because this is my favorite comedian that we're talking about here. That is, of course, Bill Burr. Bill Burr is hands down probably my favorite comedian. Yeah, love the Monday Morning Podcast. Love F is for Family, Old Dads, his stuff in Breaking Bad. I'm kicking myself in the ass that I didn't get out to see him in Halifax when he was there. And I would have loved to see him on Broadway for Glengarry Glen Ross. Like, I'm a huge Bill Burr fan. I'm a massive, massive Bill Burr fan. And, but Bill has been getting a little bit of hate recently. Of course, this comes, of course, after the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia. So basically, he went to go perform at the Riyadh Comedy Festival in Saudi Arabia, where a whole bunch of other comedians were there. Dave Chappelle was there. There's probably many more that I'm thinking about. But a lot of the people, it doesn't really matter, I guess, about the others because Bill Burr's the one who's getting the most flack for it. Mainly because Bill Burr is the one who has been so critical of billionaires, and he's made a lot of great points about them, I will say. One of the things he said on a, I think it was his podcast, was there's nothing wrong with being a billionaire, but if you're making all this kind of money, you know, millions and billions of dollars, and meanwhile your employees are struggling to pay their rent and they don't have dental insurance, then maybe don't give yourself a freaking $1 million bonus every year. You know what I mean? Like, it was a terrific point that he made, and I really, really admired him for speaking out. That's the thing I love about Bill Burr. He calls things for what it is, and he's able to make it funny. And but in this case, the reason why he's getting so much shit for the Riyadh Comedy Festival is being a little hypocritical. He's being a little bit hypocritical because, going on and on and on about how he was, how billionaires, whatever. He was giving crap to, who was it? Beyonce. She went and performed for Muammar Gaddafi, of course, the dictator, the leader of Libya, who was assassinated. When was that? Got 2010, I think 2010, 2011, not long after Bin Laden died. So she was given like X amount of dollars, a million some dollars to come perform for Gaddafi. So he was giving her crap for that, for accepting money from Gaddafi of all people, like just all the terrible things he's done. I'm not going to get on about that, but but because he's been so critical about that and billionaires in general, all of a sudden he gets offered the opportunity for Saudi Arabia, the Riyadh Comedy Festival to, $1 million some dollars to come do this gig. People were saying for a while, Bill, don't do it. Bill, don't do it. And he did do it. And so now that he is, people are really firing back at him. On his latest podcast, he kind of said, basically just saying, no, it was fine. It was fine. He was basically trying to justify it, saying that we were all just having a great time. The audience was great and everything. And I think he credited the chili. They make great chili. And so what are my thoughts? Because it's because it's my favorite comedian, does it disappoint me to see him being kind of hypocritical? A little bit, I'll be honest here. It is a little disappointing to see him go to that level. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things that I think yes, we all do hypocritical things and everything, but I don't think people are saying, oh, this is going to end his career and everything. No, I don't think this is going to end his career. I think people are just I just think it's one of those situations that people are just kind of disappointed. It's one of those things like when your parents say, we're not mad, we're just disappointed. That's how everyone feels with Bill Burr right now. We're not mad, we're just disappointed in you because we thought you were better than this. And, especially like a one-time offense thing, you know what I mean? Like we all do things that are hypocritical. We all do things that we give someone shit for doing one thing and then we go and do that. Everybody's guilty of it in some way, shape, or form. Sometime in their life, they're going to do it. And as much as we want to deny it, we've done it, So I really think it's not quite fair to bash. Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with what he did. I don't agree that he would bash billionaires for all this time and then go out and do what he was criticizing Beyonce for, getting $1 million to come perform and be their dancing monkey. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's one of those things that we'll be disappointed for a bit, and then in time we're gonna get over it. I think so. That's my personal opinion. I didn't even really want to talk about it, but because, as I mentioned, it's my favorite comedian. I love the Monday Morning Podcast and everything he does, and I will still continue to support everything he does. Am I disappointed? A little disappointed in him for being a hypocrite, and yeah, but also the not accepting responsibility for it, like basically just giving all these excuses. I think people might have been a little better with it had he just came out and just said, yeah, I did it for the money, but you can tell that he's deflecting from it, and so he's the only one getting flack for it. Meanwhile, Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle, all the other ones who were performing in the comedy festival, Pete Davidson, I think Louis C.K. was there too, and they're not getting much flack for it, but Bill's the one getting the flack for it because he was, as I said, so hypocritical about accepting money for these types of causes, But anyway, it is what it is. We're all human. We all make mistakes. People are going to get over it, I think. it's just one of those things of we're not mad, we're just disappointed. We're disappointed, Bill. But anyways, we're gonna move on eventually. People are gonna move on. I'm kind of just like, it's fine. But anyways, be sure to let me know what you guys think. Was Bill Burr right for what he did? Should he have done the gig at all? Should he have just been honest on his podcast instead of just making all these excuses? Whatever you think, be sure to let me know your thoughts on that. And so we're going to call it for the show today, guys. That's probably the longest I've talked all week without coughing, which is great. You might notice a couple abrupt cuts throughout there during the segments. That's just me cutting out my massive coughing. So once I stop recording here, I'm just going to... So thank you to my guest, Shelley Blanton-Stroud, for coming on. Be sure to check out her website in the episode description. Thank you guys, as always, for listening to the show. If you want to come get tickets for our show, Fractured Festivities, in November, that is on our Instagram page, Facebook, Eventbrite, all that stuff. And thank you guys again for listening to the show. We will see you guys in the next episode. But until then, this is Frankie signing off. Have a good one, guys.